Hebrews. Hebrews. This is our Israel Wake Up. It's our Women Advanced Bible Study. Okay. The 25th of June, 2026. Okay. We'll be reading our 3 chapters tonight out of the book of Genesis. We'll be reading chapters 20, 21, and 22. We're going to read each chapter like we normally do, and then we'll break them down. Talk about it. Okay, go to our YouTube channel, Israel Wake Up, and check out our videos. We have over 200 or so videos so far that you can look at or examine the content and get the meat out. All these videos that lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated, okay? And we have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those that want to support this channel and help it move along. And that too will be greatly appreciated, okay? For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah, Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called book of remembrance from Genesis to Malachi, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer and our Deliverer, the Lord of hosts, okay? This channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up to their true identity in these last days and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study, okay? We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, and psalms. We have some women help with Michelle. We have some current events, need to know information, and we open it up for questions and comments, any dialogue, okay, or any testimonies. And our topic for discussion is we'll be dealing with Peter Thiel and his master plan to destroy the world and to escape. Okay, we're going to look at that, okay, and bounce it off of what we already know. Like I said, our scripture reading will be out of Genesis chapters 20, 21, and 22. Okay, then we pick a scripture at the end, and we'll read that scripture, break it down, talk about it, then we'll close out. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and your wisdom, and we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people Israel. Oh Lord, you gave us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers, and you, oh Lord, have directed us to who you are and your role in the goings on of heaven and earth. We come this day, doubtless, that you will appear, that you will gather your nation from among these wicked Gentiles. Tarry not, O Lord, for the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay? So we're going to read the Psalms right quick.
Shalom, everyone. I'll be reading Psalms 13. How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord, forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? 3. Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. Light in my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemies say I have prevailed against him, and those that
You went
trouble me
low.
rejoice.
You went low.
Excuse me?
You went low.
Okay. Yes, sir. Can you hear me now? Lest my
Yeah.
enemies say I have prevailed against him, and those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. Verse 5. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing unto the Lord because he hath dealt bountifully with me. Psalms 13, Song of David.
Okay.
Shalom.
Got anything on that?
Uh, Other than him always praying to the Lord of hosts, but he's like seemingly emotionally distraught because of his enemies that are against him.
Okay.
Shalom.
Right. So one thing to understand about these songs, they songs. So what they are is these songs right here. They were sung in the temple. So David actually wrote these songs It's his relationship with the Lord, but he wrote them for the Israelites to use them on the high holy days and in the Shabbat. They songs.
Yes, yes, sir. Shalom.
So, so we're gonna go to our women's health moment with Michelle.
Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. Please note that this information is intended for educational use only and should not be considered as medical advice or treatment. Tonight's discussion is on 3 natural remedies from the Bible and their health benefits. For centuries, people have looked to nature for healing and protection, and the Old Testament remains one of the most enduring sources of natural remedies. The Old Testament includes many references to healing herbs, plants, and resins that have influenced both ancient Hebrew Israelite practices and modern herbal traditions. Today, as more people seek natural and sustainable alternatives, biblical remedies such as balm, hyssop, and myrrh continue to be valued for their potential to support physical and spiritual well being. One mention of herbal medicine in the Old Testament is found in the book of Genesis, where we read about the use of herbs to treat skin conditions. In Genesis chapter 37, verse 25, we find the story of Joseph who was sold into slavery. Genesis 37 and verse 25. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spiceries and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. Myrrh appears many times in the Old Testament. When the bark is cut, a yellowish sap flows out and hardens into reddish brown chunks. Myrrh has a distinct smell. It's warm, earthy, and slightly bitter. The scent lasts a long time. People in the Old Testament valued this unique fragrance. Too many people value myrrh for its healing properties. They use it to clean and treat wounds. It helps with mouth and gum problems. Balm of Gilead is a special healing mixture that came from trees in Gilead region. It was famous for its healing power. The Old Testament tells us about traders carrying this balm to Egypt. It was a valuable item that people would pay good money for. We can also find it in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 8, verse 22. And there is no balm in Gilead, there is no physician there. Balm of Gilead is used to heal wounds and prevent infection. It can also be applied to painful joints for relief. Hyssop. Hyssop is a small bush with blue purple flowers. It appears in the Old Testament about cleaning and purifying. King David wrote about hyssop in Psalm chapter 51, verse 7. He said, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean." He was talking about spiritual cleaning, but Hebrew Israelites knew hyssop was a powerful herb. It was used by Israelites as a brush to apply the lamb's blood on their doorposts during the Passover. Hyssop contains natural oils that fight germs. It helps clear mucus from your chest when you have a cough. Many people drink hyssop tea for sore throats. It helps with congestion from colds too. The Lord of hosts' creation is filled with many healing wonders. The Old Testament preserves this ancient wisdom, offering insights that continue to benefit us today. I will be reading from Psalms chapter 103, verses 1 through 4. Bless the Lord's holy character. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases, who redeemeth thy life from destruction, who crowneth thee with loving kindness and tender mercies. Tonight's discussion was on 3 natural remedies from the Bible and their health benefits. And I read from the book of Psalms, chapter 103, verses 1 through 4. Bless the Lord's holy character. Shalom, everyone.
Okay, well, appreciate that information. Okay, we're gonna go to our current events, and we'll play the video, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so go to the first one. Okay.
By back-to-back earthquakes, which struck about 40 seconds apart. First, they were hit by a 7.2, and then it was followed by a 7.5. These collapsed buildings across the capital of Caracas, shutting down International Airport and prompting the USGS to estimate casualties ranging from the tens to hundreds of thousands of people. That range reflects how early and chaotic the information picture still is on the ground, but really any range that starts in the tens of thousands of people is a catastrophic humanitarian event by any measure. Two other significant earthquakes also hit today, a 5.6 in Northern California this morning and a 6.9 off the coast of Japan this afternoon. And the question everybody is asking is whether or not these three events are connected, whether something bigger is building, and what your family should know and do about earthquake preparedness. Let's get into it. Welcome back to The One Row. Here on this channel, we focus on real practical preparedness to help you and your families be better prepared for whatever the world throws at you. If you end up finding this video helpful or enjoy it in any way, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. But it's been a rough day for a lot of folks around the world, particularly for those folks in Venezuela. The epicenter of both of these quakes were near the town of Morón on Venezuela's Caribbean coast, roughly 100 miles west of Caracas, where the Caribbean plate meets the South American plate. It's a well-documented seismic activity zone. The 7.2 quake hit around 6 p.m. and the 7.5 came 40 seconds later, with the two epicenters being only about 33 miles apart, which is an extraordinarily close pairing that makes the combined shaking effect significantly more destructive than if the events were separated by time and space. To put the magnitude in context, the 2010 Haiti earthquakes that killed over 100,000 people registered a 7.0, and the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, which destroyed much of that city, registered a 7.9. So 7.5 sits squarely in a range where catastrophic outcomes are the expected result rather than the exception, particularly in a country like Venezuela, whose buildings are largely not engineered to modern seismic standards. Residents across Caracas described hearing a roar coming from the ground before the shaking began, then the walls moving, buildings, facades collapsing, exposing apartments to the streets, dust clouds rising over multiple neighborhoods, and scenes of complete panic, including the international airport, where video captured rubble and debris across the terminal floor and people running around. The airport has been shut down entirely. Hundreds of emergency workers are digging through the collapsed structures, looking for survivors as this is being recorded right now. And Venezuela's acting president has declared a state of emergency. And yesterday's Venezuela quakes were not the only ones. As we mentioned earlier, California had a 5.6 near Willis, California, that cut power to more than 6,000 residents and produced injuries significant enough that local hospitals reported them, which is a real and disruptive event for a community, even if it didn't register as a catastrophic type event like in Venezuela. Now, Japan did have a 6.7 off the coast that halted high-speed rail service and triggered a precautionary nuclear plant check, but there have been no real reports of serious damage or casualties, which reflects the state of Japanese preparedness for these types of situations, which helped prevent a more catastrophic outcome. But the real question that I think we all are asking is, are these connected? Are we entering a phase of increased seismic activity? Well, a prominent Caltech seismologist has already answered that question, and according to her, the answer is no. These earthquakes occurred on separate fault systems and separate plate boundaries. One did not trigger the other, and large earthquakes thousands of miles apart generally do not increase the likelihood of another major earthquake elsewhere. Earthquakes happen all the time around the globe in different magnitudes and scales. You can actually go to the USGS website and follow them on a regular basis. The timing is coincidental, or so they say, but the locations are not, because each struck along well-known active plate boundaries where stress has been building for decades or in some cases centuries, making large earthquakes in these zones an expected part of the natural cycle, even if predicting exactly when they occur remains extremely difficult or impossible, if the building itself becomes structurally compromised. If you happen to be outdoors, then you want to move away from buildings, street lights, and overhead utility lines, and stay out in the open away from things that could fall on you. And you want to do that until the shaking stops. If you're in a vehicle, you're going to want to pull away from buildings, trees, overpasses, power lines, but it is best to stay in your car until the shaking stops rather than trying to get out and move around on your feet while the shaking's going on. And then after,
Okay, any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom. Yes, sir. I was watching that earlier today, but the thing is that they're having them, happen pretty much all over the world, including Japan and Alaska. I mean, they're not as big, but they are, they are happening. So I think just this month they had one in Russia or somewhere that was
Okay.
8.2. If
Okay.
if I remember right, Brother Leonard. But yeah, we got to keep an eye on that, especially California, because they're really getting hit with them.
Right. He was saying about all three of them was in places where they already had earthquakes before.
Hmm.
So it was like that was the connection. He was saying that too. All three of them, they was known, seismic zone.
Right. Yes, sir. I
Right.
correct that, sir. That wasn't Russia. That was in the Philippines, sir. This month, where they had a big one that hit.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Here we go.
Well, the White House does not want you to understand what's really happening with oil and gas right now, and they are in a panic mode over it. What happened is right now, you understand the real story. You would understand why the sudden panic is happening. The Trump administration is now calling on the Department of Justice this morning to investigate so-called price gouging at the pump, and why, according to the White House sources speaking to redacted news, the team negotiating the Ukraine-Russia deal has now discussed with President Trump the possibility of lifting sanctions on Russian oil. This would be a major move to lift sanctions on Russia, and it would, of course, send a shockwave through the EU, where they just introduced a new round of sanctions. So right now, Washington is running out of room, running out of cheap options, running out of spare barrels in the strategic petroleum reserves. And most importantly for Republicans, they're running out of political cover because reality just hit them in the face. So this afternoon, the clearest sign of panic is this. The United States is now seriously considering lifting sanctions on Russian oil and gas. That means the White House knows the sanctions regime is colliding with the physical reality of tank bottoms in the United States. And we can tell the public that America is energy dominant, that we don't need oil and gas from the Middle East or Russia. But if the market needs those barrels, and if gasoline prices threaten to explode into a full-blown inflation crisis, then suddenly the moral posturing starts to completely disappear. And that is what we are now seeing right now. So let's start with Cushing, Oklahoma. Cushing is not just some storage site in the middle of the country. It's the key delivery hub for U.S. crude futures. It's one of the central switching stations of the American oil system. Crude moves in, crude moves out, pipelines connect them, refineries depend on it, and the price of West Texas Intermediate crude is then tied to it as well. And today, Cushing basically is flashing red right now. The EIA data shows commercial U.S. crude inventories fell by 6.1 million barrels last week, down to 412.1 million barrels, about 7% below average. And at Cushing specifically, inventories fell to roughly 19 million barrels. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve also fell by 9.1 million barrels, down to 331 million. That's not a comfortable system. That's basically a system that's totally stressed right now. And this is where people need to understand the phrase tank bottoms. When analysts say that Cushing, Oklahoma is nearing tank bottoms, they do not mean that every tank is literally empty, like no big deal. They mean the whole system is approaching collapse. In other words, some oil has to remain in these tanks and pipelines for pressure, blending, flow, and quality control. You can't just suck every last drop of oil out of these systems and pretend that the machinery keeps working normally. It's like a fish tank. Here's my daughter's fish tank and her goldfish bubbles. If the water level drops, that filter, starts running hot. No water running through it. nothing to cool it, nothing to cool that motor, and it will break. This water level, like oil, needs to remain. Your problem becomes a gasoline problem. A gasoline problem then becomes an inflation problem, and an inflation problem becomes obviously a political nightmare. That's why there was a lot of yelling today on Capitol Hill. Republicans meeting with President Trump today, one Republican yelled out, "This is a effing mess." So there's a lot of tempers running right now, and that's why President Trump is meeting with GOP right now, because it's a bit of a shitstorm. That's why all this matters. Now layer on top of what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. So these are the accurate numbers as of about 20 minutes ago. See the far below daily average of ships that are moving through the strait, 23 of them. And of course, President Trump is out there saying today that everything is fine, that Iran is doing everything that I want them to do, which is not true. In fact, we now know through a memorandum through Iran and Oman, Jordan, that in fact they are charging tolls to go through the Strait of Hormuz, which is exactly what President Trump said is not happening. And is what Marco Rubio about an hour ago said is not happening, and it can't happen. So wait, Iran is doing everything we're asking them to do, but they're not really doing everything we're asking them to do because they're charging to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, just to be clear. And that's the market trying to convince you that everything is fine because oil prices have come down from that panic level. But shipping tells a totally different story. Tanker rates, meaning the cost to put those tankers in the water in that region, have exploded. Reports today show some very large crude carriers earning close to $470,000 per day just to get tankers through the Gulf and through the Persian Gulf, through the Strait of Hormuz. That price has doubled in a week. So this idea that like it's half open, half closed, we don't know what's going on here, that's what's reflected right now in this market. That's not a normal market. The big oil companies, instead of admitting the tank bottoms, are the problem. So the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is not full. Cushing is approaching dangerous operation levels. Gulf shipping remains unstable and now double the cost. And that's why the Russian oil sanction story is so important. So again, according to White House sources speaking to redacted news, credible insiders now say the team is negotiating the Ukraine-Russia deal. They have spoken with Trump about lifting sanctions on Russian oil. And we're told it's very likely that the U.S. will next move to lift those sanctions. That would be a shocking reversal. Just days ago, the U.S. allowed a Russian oil sanctions waiver to expire on June 17th, after Trump suggested that the Iran deal was, done, and the reopening of Hormuz would allow the U.S. to increase pressure on Moscow. Russian crude exports average about 6 million barrels per day in May. That's rising from previous months. So basically, publicly, Washington says we can pressure Russia. We're going to pressure Russia to end this war. But then privately, according to what we are hearing, Trump may be preparing to do the opposite. Not pressure them at all, but in fact, ask them for their oil and gas once again. Remove the sanctions. We have to, because basically we need their oil and we don't want to have to admit it. Just like they did a few years ago under similar circumstances. So we already have a test of what this looks like, by the way. So if Trump lifts the sanctions, it exposes the real truth, which is that which is what we've been exposing here on this show for the past 4 years, is that this entire energy policy was never as strong as they claimed. It was always dependent on that same Russian energy they told you the world couldn't live without, that Europe couldn't live without. Even the European Commission just a few weeks ago outlined this energy crisis on their front page of their freaking website to address the energy crisis. All of your making, by the way, I love this like kid and his dad are like hugging a solar panel in this photo. Like the energy crisis, the way to solve it is with windmills and solar panels. Forget the nuclear reactors we just shut down and all of that cheap Russian oil and gas that we could have gotten through the pipelines that we had that the Americans blew up. Okay,
Well, it also, the imagery of that is something that Philip talks about a lot, is this idea, can we put it back on the screen? That it's individuals, it's families that are contributing to the major consumption of energy. And it's just not. It's industry, it's government. But this idea that it's you and your plastic water bottle and the fact that you don't unplug your chargers should be offensive to all of us that study the metrics.
Right. Yeah, it's that little girl. It's that little girl's fault for the energy crisis across Europe.
Right.
Because she wants to play Barbies.
So mad at her. I mean,
Yeah.
let alone that, like, let alone that I could, with all of the energy consumption from my entire lifetime, from the time I'm born to the time I die, won't even get anywhere near like 5 minutes of Nestle's global operations. You know, not even close to that. Like, that's just one company. You know, like I could just pollute as much as I can possibly pollute all day long and never even make a dent. So it's just, you know, it's anyway. I'm so mad at that little girl.
So now they're all just admitting. I mean, this is a real panic mode moment. This is why I think that Trump is trapped here. It's the kind of panic where hardliners are staying quiet and they're quietly starting to reverse this policy, and they're starting to blame somebody else, blame big oil companies. And that's what the DOJ price gouging story and investigation is all about, in my opinion. It's one big charade. Look over here while we suddenly scrounge around and try to find barrels of oil over here. Try to be distracted over here on the media. And then
Okay, and feedback on that, all of a sudden they want to take the sanctions off of Russia. Like he said, that's a major sign to me. They're stressing. Any comments on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir. I see that being that they, like he was saying, it hitting the tank on the bottom, that it's going to run out, and by the president going to lift the sanctions on Russia, trying to get oil in. In the meantime, between time, if we're bottoming out, then it's just like everything's going to start shutting down. I mean, the jet fuel is the first thing, then the diesel, and that runs all the transportations and things that's happening. And then you have the gas, you know, for us, the trucks going places. And if all that shuts down, that seems like the time that we had COVID, when everything shut down. So how long is it going to take if they do not respond in helping out with this fuel, which we supposedly have so much in reserve that we don't need it, but we just want it? It seems like they're getting scared, because what they told the public, everyone, that we're good. If we're good, we don't worry about it. Then about him going into Venezuela, doing that all, and they're saying that by them taking it, they're about to bottom out too. So it's so much going on with this, and I don't think that Russia will do anything unless they're all in this little plot, you know, play that, okay, I'll do it, you lift it, I'll give you some. I don't know, but it's going to be wild.
Right, yeah. Well, I think Russia gonna get that money. You know what I'm saying? That's what I look at. The way I look at that. Yeah. So with that being said, anybody else got anything? Okay. So yeah, with that, I got some need to know information before I play this video. I wanted to. We had several bunch of conversations about. I was talking about how Israel is playing like a dead horse or like a possum. If you notice on the news, they got it where they backed against the wall. The Israeli lobby is deteriorated. Netanyahu was on the run. I got all this making as if Israel's in a bind, right? And so when you go to the true Israelites in the Tanakh, we notice that every time Israel got in the bind, something miraculous happened. The Lord did something miraculous. So they setting the stage, and so here we go. All of a sudden, out the blue, this pop up.
Is Israel threatening to annihilate all of us unless they get their way, like a spoiled rotten brat at the grocery store at the final little stretch? crying and screaming for a candy bar. If you don't give it to me, I'm just going to basically go nuclear right here in the aisle. That's maybe what Israel is going to do. They might go nuclear on us if they don't get their way. Look at this tweet. This is from Ian Carroll. He says, Israel is now openly threatening to use nukes against the world. Ironically, this is exactly why they should be disarmed and their future statehood called into serious question. Why the Zionist project should have...
So listening to this, I watched the video she getting ready to play earlier, and he never said nukes. They saying nukes. I think it's this AI, but check it out.
Should never have begun. Violent tribalism and existential victim narrative is the most dangerous combination possible, and it is fundamental to Israeli identity. There are only two possible outcomes. Either they rule the world and all bow to their chosenness, or they keep picking fights until the whole world turns on them and they are destroyed. The slippery part is that it's not just Israel. They have dragged the entire global Jewish population into this adversarial and unconscionable position, and the real power structure of Israel is dispersed across the global network of Jewish billionaires and bankers that support it and represent the true power of the project. Now, he is referring to this is a message that was put, this is, well, just watch this.
Israel's existence
Is
not negotiable, and it does not depend on superpowers or the public opinion. And if they keep pushing Israel to the corner, they are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Israel has not used,
check it out.
Israel hasn't used everything that it has. And Israel, on a purpose, did not expose the advanced weapons that it has for very important reasons.
You never say nuclear.
We don't want the enemy to know what we are having. And now, at this point, we're just playing around. So this is the clear message to those who think that they can annihilate Israel.
Okay.
Behind Israel is existence.
So Israel has secret weapons we don't even know about, and they'll bring them out if they have to. And that is what people are very afraid of, that Israel will resort to using nukes. And the question is, who will they use nukes against? And you might think, oh, they're only going to use nukes against Iran. They're only going to use nukes against Lebanon, Hezbollah, against the Houthis, against the Palestinians. But remember, the Israelis have a long list of enemies. They've now put Egypt on that list. Turkey is on that list. And the way things are going in the United States, Americans are about to be put on that list. And Israel is proving itself to not be trustworthy when they decide you're an enemy. They will kill you. They will murder you. They will murder your children, and they won't even think twice about it. And every American should be kind of hesitant about that. I mean, really hesitant about that. The fact that, here we are saying our greatest ally is this group of people who, without even blinking twice, would kill your children. They would just shoot them right in the head. The minute they say you're an enemy, they'll shoot your children. And you're not one of them. So if you're not one of them, you're not protected. And even those who are them, there's Jewish people who are Jewish, obviously, and if they're anti-Israel, they're suddenly also on the, they're in the crosshairs as well. Here's Tucker Carlson talking to Alex Jones about this very thing, about his fear that Israel will resort to using nuclear weapons.
I think we're in a really dangerous place right now because Israel is, for the first time maybe in my lifetime, legitimately threatened. And I say this as an opponent of the Israeli government, obviously a fairly well-known opponent of the Israeli government, but I don't want to see innocents die anywhere, including Israel, period. I believe in universal standards. It's always wrong to kill innocent people, including in Israel. So I'm not wishing their destruction, but I think they are in a very tough spot. And the problem for Israel is they've been talking for 50 years, my whole conscious life, about how they're on the verge of being destroyed. And that's always been a lie. But now you have an Iran that is a regional power. It's a global power, and it's not going to go away. And so Israel is in a place where domestically the country's gone crazy. They're convincing themselves that, every crisis is an existential crisis. The only way out is to kill more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then their great enemy suddenly becomes, paradoxically, ironically, way more powerful than it was when this war started 3 months ago. And so, like, where does that leave the Israelis? By the way, the United States is clearly going to begin the process, hopefully a short process, of distancing itself from Israel. We've got no choice.
So he's setting it up.
And they know that. The smart ones know that. So they're in a box. And in general, you don't want to put people in boxes. You don't want to corner them, people or animals, because they do unpredictable things. And so I think Israel's a threat. Israel has one trump card. It's nuclear weapons. And you don't want to put Israel in a position where they feel they have no choice but to use those weapons. I think Israel's always been a lot closer to using nukes than any other country. I mean, we know that because they've said that. And I think they're now closer than they've ever been. So I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just a podcaster. But if I were running the US government, I would, immediately distance myself from Israel, stop paying for their genocide, of course, on moral grounds. But I would also try to calm them down.
I don't know what you can do, though. I mean, how do you calm a group of genocidal maniacs down when they're doing something so clearly wrong and you have to tell them what you're doing is wrong and you have to stop? I don't know exactly how you calm them down. Again, like the spoiled, rotten child who's demanding that they get their PlayStation or else they're going to ruin, they're going to key your car or whatever it is. I don't know what do you do? You give in to them? I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think that's the answer. I don't think you give in. And I think that you somehow have to, obviously what you would have to do in this situation is cut them off from the ability to use their weapons. Now, Israel might have nukes, but how can they launch them? Israel might have nukes, but do they have all of the other supporting equipment you need in order to actually use them? And if they don't, then how about we don't give that to them? Or if they do, maybe we figure out a way to get whatever it is away from them. I mean, here we are blowing up the Iranians' nuclear infrastructure. Why can't we blow up the Israelis' nuclear infrastructure? Clearly, we're going to have to. Rather than the discussion of disarming Iran and making sure Iran never has a nuke, Israel has nukes, and they're the greatest threat to the world right now, as they've proven themselves to be. So where's the discussion about disarming Israel, about ensuring they don't ever have a nuke? Because now that there's that threat. And this is always the demise of of American foreign policy. I mean, this is the way it's been for the longest time, is thinking the enemy of your enemy is your friend. This is what we did in Afghanistan, with the Mujahideen, right? We supported them, gave them weapons, we trained them, and they turned into Al-Qaeda eventually. This is the issue with Syria. Here we put Al-Qaeda in there, an ISIS guy who killed Americans. And you think that he's always going to be our friend and on our side? The minute there's any power or love lost, power gained or love lost, then they turn on you because they're not your family. They're their own sovereign country and they look out for their own interests. And when your interests diverge, they say, okay, then I guess we're not allies anymore. And so now we've made Israel our greatest ally. And yet we have some serious divergence in our needs and wants as nations, but they're not going to let us diverge or we will be threatened. And the next thing we know, we're under attack by the Israelis. The Israelis are coming for Americans. I think it's a matter of time. I mean, I think personally it's a matter of time before we end up at war against the Israelis, or they're bombing and killing America. Well, they've already done it. So it's not a huge stretch. But more openly, more aggressively, saying, yes, we're targeting you now. And they'll do that when they get strong enough. When they feel big enough, just like they did against Iran, waited many years, decades, to build themselves up to where they felt strong enough to go after Iran. When they feel strong enough to go after America because they, basically have merged into our military, they've merged into our government, and they're controlling absolutely everything, they will turn on us, inevitably.
Here's the drink that flushes
the sugar out of it. Anybody got any feedback on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Shalom, everyone. As the U.S. has been supporting them with all the weapons, they should know if they have given them enough weapons to create this nuclear nuke, what they're talking about. And then not only that, the prime minister and the minister of defense have to get together before they can even decide that they're going to be able to do that. I'm thinking that they're making it more um, more out of it than it really is, because if they had it, and they would have been able to do the things to Iran if they had it, but they wasn't the one who nuked um, the area that Iran had. So I don't think they have it. And if they do, it's been like they spoke of it ever since I think like 1970, 1948, 1949. It was talking about it, and then saying something about 1979. I mean, it has been, they haven't confirmed or denied that they have it, so anyone can say anything about it. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Feedback? Okay. With that being said, we're gonna go to let's see where we at. Yeah, we go to our Q&A. Anybody have any questions, any comments, dialogue about anything they came across? They want to talk about it? Okay. Anybody have anything? Okay. So I'm gonna play this right here. Then we go to our topic for discussion. Okay.
So I want to talk about something that just happened twice in the last 2 weeks, and almost nobody in the media is talking about it, or at least they're not connecting the dots. These are certainly headlines, but they're not connecting the dots, and something big is happening. Both Colombia and Peru had elections. Take a look at these headlines here. These are the people who won. Trump endorsed De La Espriella, declared winner of Colombia's presidential runoff election. And we also had in Peru, Keiko Fujimori secures victory in Peru's presidential election. So why is this important? Why am I making a video about the elections in Colombia and Peru? Well, in both of them, the candidate who won is openly and explicitly pro-Israel. In Colombia, as I said, Abelardo de la Espriella won the runoff on June 21st, and within hours of taking the congratulatory call from Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar, Espriella said that Colombia would, quote, restore and strengthen its relationship with the state of Israel like never before, that Israel can count on Colombia as a loyal friend and a steadfast ally. Now, this guy is replacing Gustavo Petro. Petro didn't just criticize Israel, he severed diplomatic ties with the Jewish state entirely. This is a complete reversal. And a week before that, Peru elected Keiko Fujimori, and her camp has been signaling that she wants to deepen security and intelligence cooperation with Israel. She wants to model her approach to crime and terror on what Israel does. She's saying that openly. Now, here's the thing. If it were just Colombia and Peru, we could say maybe it's, okay, it's two countries, it's a bit of a coincidence, but it's not. And that's why I made this video. Because what we're seeing in these two countries with a pro-Israel right-wing candidate being elected is now the dominant trend across that entire continent. Let's go down the list. I want you to notice something as I go. Now, notice how recent almost all of this is. In Argentina, that's the most famous one. That's Javier Milei. He's the most outspoken of all of them. He stood at the Western Wall in Jerusalem and said that his support for Israel, quote, comes from the heart. He called it a just cause, the cause of the West. In April, he signed what's being called the Isaac Accords with Prime Minister Netanyahu and pledged to move Argentina's embassy to Jerusalem. Milei took office at the end of 2023. And then let's go to Ecuador. Daniel Noboa was reelected this past February. He stood in Jerusalem and told Netanyahu directly, we share the same enemies. You will always have my support. Ecuador has formally designated Hamas, Hezbollah, and the IRGC as terrorist organizations. In Panama, Jose Raul Molino, he's also a pro-Israel candidate and head of state, and he's only been in office since the middle of 2024. all very recent. He always, he votes on Israel's behalf in the UN. In Bolivia, Rodrigo Paz Pereira, elected just last October, he pulled Bolivia out of the Hague Group and ended a long diplomatic freeze with Israel. Now, if you don't know what the Hague Group is, you should. It's a coalition of mostly global South countries founded in January 2025, about a year and a half ago, that coordinates legal and diplomatic action against Israel. That's the whole point of it. Arms embargoes, port bans, pushing the International Criminal Court arrest warrants against Netanyahu, all that stuff. That's the Hague Group. They pushed that stuff. Bolivia was one of the 9 founding members of the Hague Group. And then, when Paz Pereira came in, he's like, no. He pulled Bolivia out. This isn't just Bolivia warming up to Israel. This is a founding member of the anti-Israel legal coalition saying we're out under the new guy. And then in Honduras, we have Tito Asfura, who was just elected in November this past year. And he ended a 16-year freeze in diplomatic relations with Israel. And Honduras, like Bolivia, was a founding member of the Hague Group and left in March. And then in Chile, Jose Antonio Cast was just elected in December. And this one's personal for him. He spent his campaign hammering his predecessor, Boric, for excluding Israel from an air show. And he called it anti-Semitic and ideological. Cast has already told President Herzog of Israel that he's returning Chile's ambassador after he had been recalled by the previous guy. And in Costa Rica, we have Laura Fernandez Delgado, who took office just in February and has just signed a free trade deal with Israel. And of course, Peru and Colombia that we just mentioned in the last couple of weeks. Add to that the ones who've been pro-Israel for a while and have never wavered. Bukele in El Salvador, who after October 7th said plainly that anyone who supports Hamas is like someone, it's like a Salvadoran siding with MS-13. And he condemned them. He's pro-Israel. And in Paraguay and Guatemala, who both already have their embassies in Jerusalem, that's what, 11 or 12 heads of state, almost all of them elected just in the last 2.5 years. So this is a wave in South and Central America. So why is this happening? Why right now? Why specifically in this part of the world? Because this is unavoidable. This wave. These were all countries that were governed by the left before. So here's my read on it. Let's go back to Europe for a second. You have Viktor Orban, who governed Hungary for a while, just was ousted. But the Orban supporters in Hungary, Vox in Spain, that's the conservative Christian right-wing party, the Nationalist Party, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, the Le Pen supporters in France. I've said this before on this channel. All over the world, the populist, nationalist, Christian conservative right is pro-Israel. And that breaks an old paradigm that a lot of Jews, a lot of pro-Israel people are a little slow to understand, but it breaks an important paradigm. That's why they're slow to understand it. The assumption used to be that the hard right was where anti-Semitism lived, and the left was where Jews were safe. And that paradigm is dead. And it's been replaced by something which is, it's much more honest, in my opinion. It's much more real. Let me explain. See, what's happening in Latin America is there's an instinct at work here. In Latin America, the alternative to the nationalist conservative right isn't a moderate center-left party. It's not like the Democratic Party of the United States. It's usually an actual Marxist or socialist movement, like Petro, Boric before Cast beat him in Chile, Lula in Brazil right now, is a Marxist. And these conservative nationalist, often devoutly Christian voters and leaders have figured something out that a lot of Western commentators and Western politicians and Western electorate in like the US and elsewhere don't quite get, or they don't say it out loud if they get it, that there is an alliance, the Red-Green Alliance, the alliance between the Marxists and the Islamists. We know about that alliance. They are anti-biblical civilization. The idea of of a morally free individual answerable to God rather than to the party or the state or the caliphate. Right? That's what that is what they're opposed to, the Marxists and the Islamists. When these leaders that I've talked about here in South and Central America, like Wilders and Orban and Vox and others in Europe, when they look at the Middle East, the choice is not abstract or vague, right? They're not thinking about Israel as some far-off policy question. They're looking at their own backyard, their own narco-terror networks, which are often this combination of, like Hezbollah is involved in them. They know who's involved in them, the human trafficking networks. They look at the radical movements that talk the language of liberation while aligning with Hamas and the Islamic Republic. They recognize the pattern immediately. They see their socialist Marxist heads of state when they're in power and political figures openly aligning themselves with Iran, openly aligning themselves with Hamas. So to these Christian conservatives in these countries, standing with Israel is a no-brainer. It's standing against the same civilizational enemy that they're fighting at home. Now, I want to make a point here about Brazil, because Brazil proves that this isn't even about who's holding office. It's about where the energy is. You see, Lula is in power right now. That election was probably stolen from Bolsonaro. That's a whole other story. There was a lot of shenanigans in the vote counting of that election. But nevertheless, Lula is very hostile to Israel. But the Bolsonaro movement, and right now that means not Jair Bolsonaro, who was president, but his son, Flavio Bolsonaro is currently running. And they have elections in October, and he is very pro-Israel, and he's polling competitively. And the Bolsonaro base in Brazil is exactly this same coalition. They're nationalists, they're conservative, they're deeply Christian, and they're instinctively pro-Israel and just as instinctively anti-Marxist. Let me show you something amazing about the Bolsonaro coalition here. This is a video clip. This is from a few years ago. This is from late 2023. This is an anti-Lula, pro-Bolsonaro protest. The protest had nothing to do with Israel. Okay, this is an anti-socialism, pro-Bolsonaro mass demonstration. But I want to show you something amazing. Look at this screen. Look at these crowd shots. That's an Israeli flag. That's an Israeli flag. See these Israeli flags here? 1, 2, 3. And then there's another one right here. There's another Israeli flag. They're all over the place. And this isn't the only clip you could find. You could find many clips of many different pro-Bolsonaro rallies from all over the world. And I'm sorry, not from all over the world, from all over Brazil. I mean, you'll find clips from all over the place, from different time periods. But at pro-Bolsonaro rallies in Brazil, people bring Israeli flags. Why do they bring Israeli flags? If it's anti-socialism, pro-Bolsonaro, they're in Brazil. Why do they bring Israeli flags? Because Israel represents their values. To them, the same way they see it as the opposite of the Hamas flag, the Palestinian flag that gets brought to every left-wing protest. So they say, hey, look, this is what we stand for. It's amazing. Amazing stuff going on there.
What you think about that? I think it's a bunch of hogwash, but yeah. Any comments on that?
Shalom. I think also just, something to say, something to talk about, because he's not really connecting what he's saying. Just a bunch of gibberish.
Right. Okay, so like I said, I played a video the other day about Peter Thiel, but this one right here is revealing. Check it out. Then we start reading.
The golf course does not make rent cheaper. And one place keeps coming up.
Yeah, and the same thing that everything this guy was just saying tied to his video.
Aotearoa, New Zealand. Peter Thiel was one of the first to get in, securing himself citizenship somehow.
This is what I think is the secret weapon.
Since then, there's been a steady flow of billionaires quietly making their way in, buying land, building bunkers, planning ahead. I wanted to figure out what it is about New Zealand that makes it look like somewhere worth escaping to. Why all these billionaires want to be here so bad, and how they're getting in. Why do the people in charge seem so convinced we need to prepare for the end? Exceptional circumstance. In 1995, a 28-year-old Peter Thiel takes his first trip to New Zealand. At this point, he's basically nobody. He hasn't started a single company yet. He's just a man on a holiday. And then he sees Queenstown, a bougie, absurdly beautiful town in the South Island. Mountains, rivers, Lord of the Rings scenery. It's the kind of place that genuinely doesn't feel real. There are some mountains there called the Remarkables, because they're remarkable mountains. Peter Thiel falls in love with the area. He vows to come back. Over the next couple of decades, he becomes one of the most powerful people on Earth, and also, frankly, a total freak. He co-founds PayPal. He founds Palantir, the company widely criticized for enabling mass surveillance. He becomes a Trump supporter, a hardcore libertarian, a man who goes on speaking tours talking about the Antichrist, questioning whether women voting was a mistake, and saying really normal, chill, casual things like, I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. He's also worth around $30 billion. And in 2011, after spending only 12 days on New Zealand soil, he is granted citizenship. The drama is that nobody knew about it until 2017. Normally, becoming a New Zealand citizen means living here as a permanent resident for at least 1,350 days over the previous 5 years. But the New Zealand government at the time granted Peter citizenship anyway, citing his exceptional circumstances and the expectation that he would promote the country globally while also connecting New Zealand startups with Silicon Valley. As far as I can tell, he has done neither of those things. Documents released under the Official Information Act show that Peter first actually applied for an investor visa in 2003, but the application was abandoned as incomplete. He tried again in 2005. This time he submitted everything: a mugshot, tax returns, even details of reckless driving convictions, alongside a list of his assets. But again, he didn't quite qualify. So he found a workaround. He set aside $1 million, not to build anything, not to invest in a company, just to sit in a New Zealand bank account. Peter Thiel didn't get into New Zealand through the system. He was simply waved through it. In 2011, in a private ceremony in Santa Monica, Peter Thiel becomes a New Zealand citizen.
Dude, guess how much it cost me to make sure my family gets $1 million?
Bug out plans. The answer might just be this. They want somewhere to hide from the apocalypse. The one that they are helping to create.
Exactly.
Aotearoa, New Zealand has quietly become kind of a safe haven for the ultra-rich. We're physically remote.
All these Edomites going here to New Zealand, the same places that the man just said, okay?
Politically stable most of the time, and generally stay out of wars. Our air is clean, the landscape is beautiful, and the overall vibe is pretty damn good. And also, inflation and cost of living crises don't hit rich people the way they do everyone else. They don't care about the supermarket duopoly. They're all shopping at Faro. In 2016, Sam Altman, the ChatGPT guy, told the New Yorker that he had a doomsday pact with Peter Thiel. If the world faced a catastrophic collapse like a synthetic virus outbreak or rogue AI or a nuclear-armed resource war, all of which would kind of low-key be their fault, they would get on a private jet and head to Peter's property here in New Zealand. LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, a former PayPal colleague of Thiel, said that saying you're buying a house in New Zealand is a kind of wink, wink, say no more. Just, oh, you're prepared for the apocalypse, like the rest of us are. It's no secret that billionaires have been building apocalypse bunkers in Queenstown. What once sounded like a conspiracy doesn't anymore. In 2015, Peter came into possession of a 477-acre former sheep station near Queenstown. Now, normally, foreigners trying to buy land here in Aotearoa have to go through a strict government approval process via the Overseas Investment Office. You can't just get off the plane and buy a house. But Peter Thiel didn't have to because he was already a citizen. Oh, like a loophole. Got it. The land itself cost around $15 million, and for a few years it just kind of sat there. Eventually, Peter Thiel tried to develop it. His company, Second Star, applied to build a substantial lakeside lodge. The plans, designed by the same people who worked on the Tokyo Olympic Stadium, by the way, included an accommodation pod for Peter, extensive landscaping, water features, and a meditation space. And like, in my humble opinion, a lot of things that were giving bunker to me, like suspiciously bunker vibes. The site is classified as an outstanding natural landscape, which places strict limits on development, and the proposal was eventually rejected. Womp womp. Council handling of the application ran into tens of thousands of dollars, by the way, like which local ratepayers had to pay for. Yay! Safe harbour from global uncertainty. Up in the Bay of Islands in the north near Kororareka and Waitangi, Omarino is up for sale. Or as this guy says it,
Omarino currently offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Omarino. I'm hearing Omarino. Omarino. Sorry. But not for us. The project is marketed through access to off-market opportunities for ultra-wealthy buyers. The website literally says at the top, like flashing, pre-approved for international buyers. No investment fees are required. So in some cases, access is now being structured in ways that don't even rely on the funky golden visa route. You can simply buy your way into one of the most historically important parts of Aotearoa through other channels, and the deal is set up correctly. Yay! While athletes who break established world records are promised bonuses of up to $1 million. You know, which explains why some athletes, especially older athletes nearing the end of their careers and like clinging on to the past, they've all started looking at this whole thing less like any sort of moral crisis and kind of more like the greatest financial opportunity they have ever seen. The tech pros who refuse to die. Peter Thiel is back in this bad boy, because of course he is. This dude is obsessed with living forever and longevity and breaking the rules of humanity. He's funded organizations like the Methuselah Foundation. He's invested in biotech startups focused on expanding the human lifespan. And he's always arguing that society should treat aging and death not as inevitable facts of life, but as engineering problems to solve. In a 2015 interview, he said,
"Death is evil, that it is wrong, and that we should not accept it, and we should fight it in every way we possibly can."
It's getting a bit dystopian and weird for me, okay? A world where rich people upgrade themselves chemically, genetically, technologically, while everyone else is left competing against humans who increasingly are not really operating within normal human limits anymore. We're getting real cyberpunk with it. Peter Thiel is interested in these games not because he loves sports at all, but because he wants to see how the human body can be technically upgraded like software. What I do find incredibly interesting though, and stay with me, is how transphobic a lot of these guys are. Like, take Donald Trump Jr., for example. He's compared trans people to terrorists.
The radical transgender movement is per capita the most violent, domestic terror threat, if not in America, probably the entire world.
And he's mocked the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports.
Some dude would win a high school girls like track championship, and they're getting a scholarship to the finest university for track, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a dude.
But you're cool with any other type of body mod stuff? You're fine with any other changes to a human body? I don't understand. Clear that the system was unconstitutional. And that should have been the end of the story. That should have been it. Instead, Prospera sued Honduras for more than $10 billion. Basic. So seasteading was an attempt to build a new city at sea, and Honduras was an attempt to build a libertarian experiment factory inside a country. And Argentina offers something potentially far more attractive. A government that already wants to be one. What does Peter Thiel actually want? I ask myself this question very often, and I never like the answer that I find. But what does he specifically want in Argentina? So Argentina is now building the kind of legal architecture that makes wealthy outsiders very, very interested. Javier's government is developing a citizenship by investment program, essentially a golden passport system for people who put enough money into the country. It's also created RIGI, a major investment regime designed to give large foreign investors long-term tax, currency, import, export, and regulatory protections. In other words, while ordinary Argentinians are living through austerity, rising utility costs, and cuts to their public services, the government is saying to billionaires and corporations, bring your money here and we'll protect you. But Peter Thiel's power has never come from writing checks. In the United States, his company Palantir became deeply embedded in government functions. Critics in multiple countries have warned that dependence on Palantir creates problems of transparency, as well as accountability and surveillance, even national sovereignty. A UK parliamentary committee recently called Britain's reliance on Palantir an unacceptable point of weakness, while shareholder proposals about Palantir's human rights risks were effectively doomed because insiders, including Peter Thiel, control nearly half of the company's voting power. So if Thiel tried to build influence in Argentina, which he will, at first it would look a lot like investment. It would look a lot like advisory access. It would look a lot like data contracts or infrastructure deals or special legal protections or, I don't know, technology partnerships, citizenship pathways. I'm still going. But it will all come with a president.
So notice how they keep talking about these billionaires and all that and technocrats, where they are all Edomites. And this is where they setting it up. They setting up they gonna whatever they gonna do, that's where they're gonna be at in New Zealand. Okay. I advise everybody to do some research on that. One of the things that's going on that pertains to Peter Thiel and New Zealand. Okay. Any comments on that?
Shalom. It seems like Mr. Thiel, Peter Thiel, is trying to have his spoon in every pot that is stirring, because he's everywhere. He's bounced everywhere. He's still bouncing. And then she mentioned that he spoke about the Antichrist, but then she stopped. So he was, I think he was born he's evangelist, and then his parents, he studied evangelism, and then he went to Christianity, and then he says he's not none of those. So I don't know his, you know, there. He said he believes in religion, but not them, the ones I just mentioned. So I don't know where he's going at with it, but he strongly, they say he strongly talks about the Antichrist all the time. And he also is a friend of Elon Musk, and they talk about the dark age or something like that. The dark element.
They all Edomites.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, and he's married to a man too.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on Peter Thiel? Comments?
Shalom. I just think he's a psychopath. I really do. Yeah, and like you said, he was married to a man, and the research that I had done on him, I think earlier in the 2000 something like that, he had a boyfriend, and when he broke up with him, he jumped off the balcony or something like that. Brother Leonard, I remember that story.
Peter Thiel jumped off the balcony?
No, his boyfriend did.
Okay.
When he broke up from him, yeah. And
okay.
I think that's how he ended up with the guy that he is with now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly all about power struggle. It's not about money anymore, because they have money on top of money. And I just really think it's all a power trip that they are on.
Okay. Okay, anything else? We're gonna start reading out of these 3 chapters out of Genesis. Chapters 20, 21, 22. Read them and then we'll talk about it. Okay. In Genesis chapter 20. Okay, this is the story of Abraham and Amalek. Okay, Abimelech. Okay, so Genesis chapter 20, verse 1. Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country, dwelled between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Amalek king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Amalek in a dream. So notice what it says. God came to Amalek in a dream by night. We know it's the angel came to Amalek. So here go another example that is not Yahweh, it's his angel. So it says, God came to Amalek in a dream by night and said to him, behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Amalek had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, she is my sister, and she, even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thine heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffer I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. Therefore Amalek rose early in the morning, called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were so afraid. Then Amalek called Abraham and said unto him, what hast thou done unto us? And what have what have I offended thee, that thou broughtest on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not be done. And Amalek said unto Abraham, what sawest thou that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, because thou surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness which thou shalt show unto me. At every place whither we shall go, we shall come. Say of me, he is my brother. And Amalek took sheep and oxen, men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Amalek said, behold, my land is before thee, to where it pleased thee. And unto Sarah he said, behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes, unto all that are with thee, and with all others. Thus she was reproved. Okay. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Amalek and his wife and his manservants, and they bore children. For the Lord had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Amalek because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Okay, so that was Genesis chapter 20. Anybody got anything on that feedback? Response?
Divine
Shalom.
intervention.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Sister
Sure, go
Michelle.
ahead.
No, okay. Um, th- this is right after they left. When Sarah and Abram was told that Abraham was gonna have a child by Sarah. So that's when they left and they came there before she had her child, before she had her child. So she was older here, correct?
Right.
So, So by her and Abraham coming there to, she's been chosen by Amalek, and they came there. Is that where she has her child, or they move again?
Well, 21 gonna tell you
Okay. Oh, one moment. So the angel came to Amalek because he knew he didn't want him to touch him because of the fact that Sarah's supposed to bear Abraham's child and not his.
no. He came to her because Sarah belonged to Abraham. Whether they gonna have kids or not? Sarah belongs to Abraham.
Okay.
And the Lord is protecting all that belong to Abraham. He protecting it.
Okay. Yeah, because it sounds like he's protecting him because he knows the child will be coming forth because that's what he promised, or he told Sarah that she will have a child.
Well, that's included, but he's taking them. Like he said, if you go back and read it, he says in verse 20, he says, verse 5, Amalek had not come near unto her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous man? Said he not unto me, she is my sister. And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. So he's saying what they told me, I'm going by what they told me. So I'm innocent. And then he told him, God said unto him, the angel said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thine heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore, suffer I thee not to touch her. So not only he didn't do anything, but he didn't understand Lord of hosts was causing them not to do nothing on because of Abraham. Okay. Anybody got anything else on that?
Shalom. I was gonna say something along the lines of what Sister Cheryl said, is that there was that divine intervention there because of the covenant promise, right? So it's you're being chosen and protected by that divine intervention. You know what I'm saying, Brother Leonard? So I was just gonna, yes, sir, say something on the lines of what Sister Cheryl was saying also.
Right. Okay. So everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead to 21. This is the birth of Isaac. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the set time of which God had spoken unto him. So I'm right here. It says, the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived and bore a son and bore Abraham a son in his old age. So what did he do to Sarah? So it says the Lord said, and the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. What did he do?
Opened where she can have a child because she was closed off.
More specific. How you get a child?
He opened her womb.
How you get a child though?
Allowed to have a sexual contact.
The
seed of Adam.
The seed.
The seed of Adam came.
Seed of Abraham.
When the semen.
Thank you,
It's
Michelle.
growing and go to the
yes, ma'am.
fallopian tube, and then one of those seeds go in, and the woman conceived. That don't necessarily have to happen. So that's what he done. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, he opened her womb and she conceived. Yes.
Right. But you, like I said, you got seed, what they call sperm count, and you got people that they have intercourse and that transaction take place, but they never have those kids. So he made it that he actually calls us one of those what they call seeds to enter into the fallopian tube and cause it to gestation. Like okay, for example, we just read up here 17. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Amalek. See that? He healed Amalek and his wife and his maidservants, and they bore children. So they wasn't having no children. He wasn't allowing the semen, the sperm to go into the fallopian tube and for the seed to gestation. He cut it off. But right here, he allowed it to happen with Sarah at the time appointed that he said it was. But he had closed everybody else wombs up. And that's big. That's what a lot of people don't understand. So anyway, verse 3. Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham conceived, circumcised his son, Isaac, being 8 days old, and God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God have made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah would have given children suck, for I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Okay, Hagar and Ishmael sent away, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called, and also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Bathsheba. And the water was spent in the bottle. And she cast the child under one of the shrubs, and she went and set her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For he said, for she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother's name, the mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at the time that the Amalek and Pisgah, the chief captain of his host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Amalek, okay, because of the well of water which Amalek's servants had violently taken away. And Amalek said, I want not who have done this thing, neither did thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Amalek, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 hued lambs. I always talking about this. Abraham set 7 hued lambs of the flock by themselves. And Amalek said unto Abraham, what meaneth these 7 hued lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, for these 7 hued lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called the place Bathsheba, because there they swore both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Bathsheba. Then Amalek rose up and Pisgah, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Bathsheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistine land many days. So you see, so what you think those 7 hued lambs represent? Anybody guess that? Or figured that out?
Not yet.
How many angels, archangels is it? How many holy angels is it?
7.
That's why he got 7 now. And then when you go understand that, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but you're gonna notice right here, this story is being laid out for a reason, because you're gonna find out this name gonna come up a lot in Tanakh. They're always around this area right here. What he just did right here, Bathsheba. It's the well of Bathsheba. They are always hanging around there. So that word Bathsheba means 7. So if you don't know that, so that's 7. What we done with 7 hued lambs. So I don't know if anybody knew that. So everybody agree with Genesis 21?
One thing, that's Amalek. When he spoke on it, um, doesn't look like. Is it this? It's not the same one in 20, is it? Because that's like a title or a ruler or something. Amalek, because he
Yeah, it's the
when
same guy.
Abraham, it's the same person.
Yeah, the same guy. When you get to the same place, like I said, this is gonna come up over and over again in the Tanakh. So you have to get a good grasp on what's going on right here. So later on, when Isaac got older, Isaac ended up in the same place.
Hmm.
And so notice what he said right here. What he told Abraham, he said the covenant at Bathsheba. So this the covenant at the well, where the 7 hued lambs is at. And it came to pass at that time that Amalek and Pisgah, chief captain of the host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God, by this angel, the Lord of hosts, that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son. Now check it out. Nor with my son, nor with my son's son, that's his grandson. He's saying that for a reason. But according to thy kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. So he's saying that I'm gonna die, and then you're gonna interact with my sons, and you're gonna do to them, treat them the same way I treated you, and it happened with Isaac. Isaac ended up back in that same place with his son, one of his sons. Okay.
Okay, so within this process, when you first started about the children and going into hearing from the lad from Ishmael, Ishmael wasn't like a baby anymore. He was older, right?
Yeah, Ishmael was older than Isaac.
Right, like okay, because it's when Ishmael was born, Sarah and Abraham was had already haven't left yet to go where Amalek was.
No,
right.
they were still, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to picture it. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Anybody else got anything? Okay. So chapter 22, Abraham commanded to offer Isaac. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thy only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering unto one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, saddled his ass, took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place which God had told him. So in the book of Joshua, it expounds on this to let you know who these two men was: Ishmael and Abraham's first servant, his first servant, or the one he sent to go get Rebekah. It says, then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes, saw the place afar off, and Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here, his two servants, with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father, he said, here I am, here am I, my son. And he said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the state of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven a second time. Okay. And he said, by myself have I sworn, said the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed, as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand of which is on the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemies, and in thine seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Bathsheba. There you go again, to Bathsheba. And Abraham dwelt at Bathsheba. Okay. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, behold, Milcah, she have also borne children unto thy brother Nahor. Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Camel the father of Abraham, and Chis, and Huz, and Kedash, and Jidlap, and Bethel, and Bethel begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Rima. She bore also Tuba, Gahim, and Thash, and Mecca. Okay, so that was chapter 22. Anybody got anything on that?
Shalom. This, the act of what Abraham did for, when he went to, for his son, when he went to up there and trusted the Lord, he, this is, this one here, this trust and faith in God was more than anything that he ever done, because he did at one point doubted that he would have a son, him and Sarah, and that's how they got Ishmael. But this time he didn't hold back. He didn't have any doubt. He was groomed from that point on to believe and have faith in the Lord. He's going to do the right thing regardless of what's going on around him. And that's what he was doing. He kept the faith, and it shows that, because I know right now ordinary people would not do it. They would be questioning all the way up to that point. But he had the faith, and that's something I see from his first time doubting or not going with the Lord when he told him that Sarah will have a child, and he went on ahead and had Ishmael. Now he was, that faith that he had going up there to build the altar, to take on, to do that, and then the Lord sent the angel. That was, I always admire that right there, what Abraham had did.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, so what you have to see, what a lot of people don't see in the story is in verse 5, Abraham going to sacrifice Isaac, right? The angel of the Lord, Michael told him to go sacrifice Isaac, right? So verse 5, Abraham said unto his young men, so I told you that was Ishmael, and can't even think of the other guy name, but it's Ishmael and this other man, abide ye here. Check out what he say. Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. See that? So Abraham already know the boy coming back. See that? Read it
Yes,
again.
sir. He said,
Abraham
yes, sir.
said unto his young men, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again unto you. So he already knew they was both of them was gonna come back. And then the boy said in 7, Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering, for the burnt offering, right? So Isaac asked him, where the lamb at? Look what Abraham says. And Abraham said, my son, God, this angel, will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. He just told 2 men, him and Isaac coming back. Now he telling Isaac, Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went, both of them together. And then we get down here, Abraham lifted, 13, Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram. That's what he just told the boy. A ram caught in the thicket by his horns, and Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. See that? So Abraham, he knows something, okay? And there's something. And then here go the last one. Like I said, these things I think people, they read over it. So he already provided right here he's already provided for Isaac already, right here. I'm gonna start at 20. Abraham's relatives, right? And it came to pass after these things that it was told. See that? Check it out. It came to pass after these things that it was told to Abraham. They telling Abraham this for a reason, saying, behold, Milcah, see that? She hath also borne children unto thy brother Nahor. Huz, his firstborn, Buz, his brother, Carmel, the father of Aram, and Cush, Hazah, can't say these names, Pidash, Jibna, and Bechiah. Now here you go. And Bethel begot, this the guy that he sent his servant to go to his house. And Bethel begot Rebekah. See that? These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. So he already got Isaac's handmaid. Isaac helped me already right there. He made sure the men came and told Abraham. See, he listed all these men, one woman, Rebecca. That's Abraham, that's Isaac mate. But notice the guy came and told him in 20, came to pass after these things, after all that would happen. This is a prime example of blessings overtaking you. After Abraham did what he's supposed to do, 20, it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, behold, yeah, and he told him, yeah, see, Bethel, then we got, had a girl named Rebecca. Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Yes, sir. I have one thing. Being that they spoke on all this here, um, when they mentioned his concubine, so prior to, you know, the concubine, that means that um, what he was, I don't know, that was like the first time hearing it, concubine.
Concubine is they
Yeah, I
are
know about. Hmm.
servants of his wife.
Right. So, well, I'm not the first time. I mean, the first time we heard the word I mean, they're saying concubine here because um, they said the servant of Sarah. They didn't use um, Ishmael's mother as a concubine. They said the servant for Sarah. This time they mentioned concubine in this one. Here, they not a servant. That's what I was trying to, you know, the difference between the words.
Right,
And
handmaiden
then
and
they say,
concubine, pretty much the same thing.
okay,
Handmaiden and concubine, same thing, pretty much.
I knew they said more into that New Testament than they said into the Old Testament.
Right, exactly. So I had one more thing. came across that I wanted to shine a light on. The guy, he told Abraham that, let me see that. He told the guy, Amalek, let me get it, I think it's in 20. He told Abraham, God be with thee. So that means Emmanuel. So they tricked it off over there in Isaiah chapter 7 when they tried to make it look like that was JC name, Emmanuel. But when you see that phrase, it's a Hebrew idiom, it means Emmanuel. A lot of times they would say Emmanuel, but in some place they would say God be with me. But it means the same thing. I think it was in I think it was in 21, but I don't see it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So somebody gonna pick a scripture. They got a scripture they want to read, then we'll close out.
Yes, sir. I'm going to read. Excuse me. This one here is in Exodus, chapter 31. It's going to read 1 through 4. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, I see I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of and the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of worship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass. Should I read more?
Oh, what you
Okay,
read? What
I
you
will do.
read?
I was in Exodus chapter 31, verses 1 through 4.
Okay. So what is that you read? What you get out of that?
The Lord is telling Moses about the Lord had. Let me say it again. I think I have to go from uh, chapter 30, verses 27 to get the gist of it, or the
Okay.
38. Okay, 38, the last verse of chapter 30. Whosoever shall make like unto that smell thereto shall even be cut off from his people. And and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, See, I have called the name of Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of in the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in the wisdom and understanding and in knowledge and in all the manner of workmanship, to devise the coming works, to work in gold and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stone to set them, and carving of the timber to work in all manner of the workmanship. This is speaking on building the temple.
Right.
Okay.
So what you're looking at is that in order for him to build a temple, he put a spirit on those men, and like it says, Tubal-Cain was a artificial brass and iron.
Mm-hmm.
He put a spirit on those Israelite men to be craftsmen. They know how to. He puts a spirit on them to be able to how to manipulate the gold and silver, how to shape it. That's why I say cunning.
Yes.
He put that spirit on them, and then he gave it to them. Then it was passed down to to their sons and all that. But when it started right there when he put a spirit on them, where they was able to fashion gold and silver. All the stuff they did in the temple when they built the menorah, when they built those angels, and they built that those two pillars with the pomegranates and all that. He put a spirit on them to know how to fashion that. So where was that at? I'll read it again. I'll read it. Where that was at?
This is in Exodus chapter 31.
Okay, let me read it.
Verse 1 through 5.
Okay, so it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, see, I have called by name. See that? This is the guy right here. Bezalel, the son of Uriah, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him, see that? With the Spirit of God, in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship. So he gave him all them skills to deal with how to fashion gold and how to deal with wood and all that. He put that spirit on him, and then from here, he taught everybody else that. And then verse 4, to devise cunning works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass and in cutting of stone, to set them and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. That's because they get ready to build a temple. And they got to build all those, they got to do all that, all the furnishing and all that, go in the temple. He put a spirit on them to be able to do that.
Okay. I have a question, Brother Leonard. So when it says that the Lord has given us gifts, wouldn't it be he poured the spirit of, like if I'm great with numbers, if I'm great with figuring out things, solving problems, that would be the spirit of poured on into me with that, or that's something else versus what they're speaking on?
You have to go back to the very beginning, like what he did right here. So it's all the way down to the day. It's men that have the same spirit on them.
Yes, sir. I know my father was a bricklayer, so he was great.
So singing, like what I said, you see all the men like Marvin Gaye, all those, you have to go back to our lineage. So in the very beginning, they were passed down. There were certain houses that did certain things. And that then when the Most High scattered us, and then our enemies got hooked out. That was the purpose of them doing what they did. They didn't want us to keep all the things that we had that made us the great nation that we was. So they twisted it all up, discombobulated it, and lied about everything. But that's the reason why you see. Let me get an example. Go to Ezra. You go to Ezra right quick. Chapter. And you see it all the time when he start listing, he listing the tribes. That's the reason he's doing. Because the tribes, certain tribes got certain talents. You go to Ezra. You get it. Ezra. So on chapter 2, this is when they get ready to go back. And that's why he's listening like this. Chapter 2. Those who returned from the captivity. Now, these are the children of the providence that went up out of the captivity of those which had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, came again unto Jerusalem, Judah, every one unto his city, which came with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reliah, Mordecai, Belshan, Mitzvah, Begal, Rehem, Benah, the number of the men of the people of Israel, the children of Cush, 2,172. The children of so each one of these, when he lists these men, they got particular skills. It's within that family, and that's the reason why he's listing all this. And if you get on over there, you'll see how he says, he started listing the porters, right? 21, 41. Ezra 2, 41. The singers, The children of Asaph. See, that's a man. And the same thing he did to the other guy with the skills, with the craftsmanship, he put the spirit of singing on Asaph. And all the children coming from Asaph, they can do that. Then 42, the children of the porters, the children of Shulam. So all them, Shulam is tied to porters. And so that's the whole purpose of them listing all this. Every time they go somewhere and they come out, they list this because they're telling you what's going on, who's who, when they come back. Like the priest, you got a spirit. It's a certain spirit he put on the priest, on the Levites. That make any sense?
Yes, Shalom, it does. And what I'm speaking, like, far as since it's Women's Night, do he pours gifts on the women, cooking and figuring out things and doing things. So yes,
Right.
that's what I was speaking on.
Well,
Yes, sir.
it was passed down by the mothers. It was passed down by the mothers. That's why when you understand, like what happened with Rebecca, like I just showed you, he already had it set up. But soon when whatever happened with Isaac and Abraham on the mountain, when they came out the mountain, here comes somebody and told them, yo, your brother and them had some children. And not only that, they got a girl named Rebecca. Well, that's Isaac's wife right there. And then so that's how it worked. So then we saw how that certain women that was in the tribe of Judah, and especially in the priesthood, they can actually, the Levites can eat portions of the sacrifice. It was part of the sacrifice of the lamb. Parts of the lamb belonged to the Levites. Well, because of they daughters, they have daughters. Their daughters can eat it, but another tribe, their daughters can't eat the lamb. And you got to think about how holy that lamb is. So that's a different woman. She growing up eating the sacrificial lamb every day, along with the father and the sons. But that's just among the Levites. So that's just a different type of woman. And then so when you start talking about when they say the princesses, like you got 12 princes, because there's a man over each tribe. Well, he a prince, he got a son. Well, that same way that David got a son, he need to marry a certain woman. Well, them men there got to marry a certain woman that the Most High already got allotted because of what spirit he already put on them, according to their family. But that's all they denigrated all that, twisted it all up. Okay, especially with JC when they talking about you can do this and you can do that and all that. No, that's not how it's set up, and that's why we in a disarray right now. But he's slowly bringing it back. Okay. So everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with that being said, let me say shalom. Shalom and another shalom. I see everybody. We got our men's advanced Bible study tomorrow night. We can see everybody on Tuesday, on Saturday morning for our morning Shabbat class. Okay. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.